Hello, you're watching Talking About It. I'm John Griffith.
I'm JC Alvarez. Thanks for joining us this evening. The show is live, right, John?
Yes, we are. Our phone number is 718-460-9802. We welcome your questions, comments, because we have a very, very interesting guest right now, Richard Rothstein. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining
having me
us.
here.
And you are, in my opinion, a very gifted photographer.
Okay, we can stop now.
Dedicated to capturing really the essence of New York City, and you're inspired by the male form.
Those are my two passions. Yes, that pretty much sums up my two passions.
Tell us how you got involved in photography as an art.
Well, I'm a native New Yorker, and I was in the closet until I was 40 years old. And as I went through my 40s, I started to figure out who I am as a human being. And then I moved into my 50s and started to become reasonably comfortable in my own skin and started to discover this strange thing called emotions. And one of the first emotions that I discovered was how much I loved my hometown, how passionate I felt about this city, and the strength and the energy and the safety and the comfort that it gives to me. And I've never felt unsafe or uncomfortable anywhere in the boroughs. And I
decided to turn that into your passionate works of art, which we have some here on display.
Yeah. So I started to carry the Casio, and I get around town a lot on work and personal reasons and visiting friends and family. So I started to carry this stupid little Casio, and I found it began to consume me, and then it began to feel incredibly inadequate. And then I upgraded about 3 years ago, and I've continued to upgrade with my equipment. Don't read anything wrong with that. And I carry the camera virtually everywhere I go, because
It's an extension of yourself.
very much. I feel almost naked right now without the camera. Seriously, it's strange to be without it. And I just, for me, expressing the love and the passion that I feel for the city is very satisfying, very exciting. And when I started to realize that other people were feeling what I was feeling from seeing my images, that was a real turn on. That was really exciting. And I started posting things on Facebook, and friends started demanding that I give them photographs and make prints for them. And friends were also surprised because no one imagines that there's so much beauty, for example, in the Bronx. And I happen to think the Bronx is one of the most beautiful of all of the boroughs. There's so much emotion and power and masculinity in the Bronx, and I love capturing that with my camera.
What were some of the, because I mean, as New Yorkers, we certainly are passionate about our city, and we feel the same way that you do. But to someone outside of New York City, it's really hard always to explain to them what it feels like to be here. Looking at your photographs, there was this really great, almost like a lyrical sense to them, this really enamorous emotion in them. What is it about New York City itself that you have to capture when you look at through that lens? What is it that you're looking for, or what is it that it tells you?
I just think it's the most. It's such a mess, and everywhere you go, it's just such a filthy, dirty, disgusting mess. And in that is life. Yeah. And for me, I just see beauty everywhere. I mean, it's a Confucius saying, and that sounds so corny, but Confucius said, forgive me for sounding like a fortune cookie, but everything is beautiful, but not everyone sees it.
Right.
And I find that very challenging. So I go into every neighborhood in the city, and I see beauty everywhere. And what's very exciting for me is that people see what I'm seeing. I'm expressing what I'm seeing. And I think the city has incredible textures and colors and lights and shadows. And in every corner you will see a story.
Right. Well,
And-
we
Yeah.
have here your series, right, John?
Yes.
These are some
Yeah.
of Richard's series of New York City. Some of his New York City images, and when I look at these, what almost strikes me is I almost feel as if you've taken a watercolor aspect to the photographs, like when you look at them. But I imagine that you're doing this all photographically, capturing natural light.
Yeah.
I think you need to. I mean, for me, as I said to you before, I put a lot of research into my work, so I am drawn to. I kind of, how can I put it? I mean, it's a combination of the time of day, the weather, the clouds, the fog, the way the lights are reflected on the clouds, the dawn light, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So wet, when it's wet on the ground, there are reflections. So I sort of scope all that out
Before you actually
and
take the
know
shot.
where and when to go there. Not everyone understands that, and that annoys the hell out of people sometimes, because I say, no, we need to be there at 7:05 a.m.
Well, looking at this shot right here, I mean, talk about when you say the masculinity of the city and the industrialization
Well, that's
of
just
it.
down the street from here.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
What time of the day was that shot?
That would have been about 2 hours before sunrise,
wow.
It's just
probably around 4 a.m.
what's really great about when I look at that, it's like what you referenced before about the masculinity and the power. You see so much of that in the industrialization of our city, and just in that image that you have right there of our subway system when it's sleeping.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, a favorite theme of mine. It's also, I guess my photography has also become a cure for insomnia. I find as I get older, I sleep less and less.
All right.
And
Do you fear you're gonna miss something? You're gonna miss an image?
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
So, and instead of, I keep, you don't want to run into me at some hours, because I keep a black hoodie, black pants, and these black shoes at the side of my bed, and if I wake up at 2 in the morning and I feel the urge, I don't brush my teeth,
And
I
you're
don't
out
do
and about
anything, I
getting-
just throw it on and I'm out of there.
Getting a shot like this.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really quite beautiful and quite phenomenal, because they just so emote so many different things about New York.
That's on the roof of my building.
But not only are you a great photographer at capturing the city in all its beauty, I mean, it's like look at the
couple
color in the
yeah.
clouds. A lot of people we take for granted living in New York City that there really is so much color.
But it's all
in our
out there.
Yeah.
I mean, if you the train station in Brooklyn that you just went by, that incredible purple, red, orange sky, it's out there. You just have to
see
get your
it.
ass out of bed and
Yeah.
be there
People-
at the right time.
people don't
But
look.
you also need to study the weather report and understand where the clouds are going to be. It took me like 2 months to photograph the sunrise behind the Unisphere, because no matter how clear it can be sometimes, because of Flushing Meadow, you have a morning mist and that blocks the sun.
Okay.
So I was like really obsessing on that until the day I looked at the weather report in Flushing and went, ah! And I got on the train, and that was the day I also took the subway cars.
That's really quite unique and also really inspiring. It's like a lot of young people probably look at these images and look at the city a lot differently.
Well, I hope so. I mean, I want, and they do. I mean, the number of people from around the world who follow my photography now is just really amazing to me. Probably more than New Yorkers, but that's not fair.
Well, I'm sure there's many reasons that they follow your photography. I'm certainly a fan of how much so much heart that's in there.
Well, it's pure love.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's love and it's excitement, and I feel it fuels me.
Yeah.
I mean, it really fuels me, and I feel people often look at some of my photographs, especially friends, and they are astonished that I'm not dead, because I go into some really difficult neighborhoods.
Yes, and not only that, but you take a lot of risks to create some really interesting juxtapositions in your photography, as in this example here, which we have Tarzan.
Approaching construction workers.
Yes.
Well, this is, again, as I said, two passions here, beautiful men and beautiful city.
Yeah.
And also in this work, my erotic work, if you will, it's for me, it combines my sense of humor and my anger. I'm still angry about having been in the closet for the first 40 years of my life. I don't know if I'll ever get over that anger. And I love going into the city and sort of doing this kind of thing.
Challenging it in a
And
sense.
I do a lot more nudity than I shared with you for this venue.
I'm having a great time checking out what Tarzan's up to.
No, but it's sort of like when I do this, it's sort of like fuck you world.
Yeah.
You know, it's like we're here, gay is normal, gay is magnificent, men are beautiful, and we're taking on the world. And then of course sometimes it's just fun to make things beautiful.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Like
this is one of-
Tarzan
this
with
is-
the sun rising behind him. Well, Rob, the model who did this with me, you know, we were sitting in a bar one day talking, and it was amazing to me how much he looked like the Disney Tarzan. So we went and made a custom black deerskin loincloth. And
Which I have now purchased on eBay.
which no, Rob, we'll be doing more
the one I have is
Tarzan.
a fake.
Yeah, we'll be
Great.
doing more Tarzan. But it's just that Rob, he's got balls. And we,
Well, I'll be the judge of that.
I have those too. But it's just really wonderful to go into the streets of the city with this
bravery,
iconic, very macho, gay icon.
Yeah.
I mean Tarzan.
Sure,
I
yeah,
mean, and just fuck with people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And people love it. The thing
Absolutely,
that's wonderful about it is that people love it. We go into supermarkets, drugstores, grocery stores. We walk down avenues.
I think people like art in motion, and that's another thing that I also get from your pictures.
Yeah, but the thing about Tarzan is that people really think he's Tarzan. They
Absolutely,
act like he's
yeah.
really Tarzan.
Oh yeah.
And women and young gay men will jump into his arms and play Jane. I have a whole series of those.
Okay.
And then the other thing is I try to, I mean, what I'm doing here and with a lot of my work is challenging the city, you know, and challenging convention by bringing my own sexual fantasies and my own sexual sense of humor at this point in my life onto the streets and into these images.
Well, it's also really sexifying New York City, giving her sort of like bringing to life its sexual identity.
And, you know, that lion is hot.
Yeah, totally. I agree.
Yeah.
It's a very powerful.
So why not put a hot naked ass
Sure.
next to him?
Hey, I look at
Yeah.
it all the time from behind like that.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, this is he's actually a clown. No, I mean, really a professional
Oh,
clown.
wow.
His name is Bounce Behuda. He's a Jewish clown. And
Yeah, we can tell from here.
I know that sounds funny, but it's true. So in a lot of the photographs you'll see with him, he's wearing a big red nose, but he also loves to get naked. And this was, we were doing, this is from a tribute I did to the old trucks. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. So, yeah.
There's a lot that goes into the photography as far as like how you're setting it up and all. Do you ever come into some kind of like issue with the logistics of doing the photo work that you're doing?
How do you mean?
As far as like,
Police?
yeah. It's like, thanks, John.
Is he breaking in or is he breaking out?
You know, yeah.
You know, in all the years I've been doing this now, I've been stopped by the police once. And it was because I was posing, you know, the beer garden by the Standard Hotel?
Yes, yeah, yeah.
I was walking down the street with one of my favorite models who he was completely naked, and he has a huge, and there's that word. Anybody?
Appendage?
Schlong. There you go. He has
Thank
a
you,
huge
Peanut
schlong.
Gallery.
And there was a sandwich board with a menu of like
And
15,
people want to order that.
15 different kinds of sausages. And I realized that it was a cheesy shot. You should pardon the expression. You know, it was obvious, but I figured if I handled it right, it would work. So
Yeah.
I posed him next to the sausage menu with his big sausage. And suddenly, it was about 4 a.m. in the morning, a cop car pulls up. The window comes down, and I thought, well, finally I'm going to be busted for doing this. And the cop said to me,
Order the Knish.
No, the cop says, guys, you're trespassing on private property. Could you move down about 5 feet? And then they drove away. So that's
Only in New York City.
the only time I've ever encountered. We've been chased by security guards, like in Rockefeller Center.
Oh.
But other than that, that's only because, you know, getting naked in this subway is fun. I call this is from my series. I call it the Walk of Shame.
Some of us can relate. You were telling me earlier about this series that you're working on.
Well, I recently was coming from a meeting in a really bad Morris Heights, and I, having lived in New York all of my life, did not know about step streets. And there are 97 of them, I've now learned, most of them in the northwest Bronx.
Right.
And I wanted to photograph them, and I couldn't quite figure out what to do with them. So I decided I would get beautiful dancers in dance belts so that their ass was out,
Of course.
and get them to do what you're seeing in these photographs on these various step streets. And
just
people
like
are
flight.
adoring them. I mean, it's really wonderful. People are really responding to the juxtaposition
Absolutely,
of these
yeah.
beautiful, graceful
Absolutely.
dancers against this, as I said to you earlier,
the
this
man-made
very
concrete, yeah.
masculine, organic, solid, man-made, anachronistic step streets that are all over the Bronx.
Brilliant.
Wow. And
Brilliant.
again, I'm really in awe of your work, and I really
Beautiful
want to
stuff.
thank you so much for
Thank
taking
you for
time out of your
sharing it.
schedule to share it with us. Where can people find out more?
Well, if you go to manhattanmen.net, you'll find my email address, and you'll find a link to the photo blog where I have pictures of New York. But I think the easiest way to do it is to go to manhattanmen.net, and if you email me when you find through the email address you find there and want more information, I can direct you to other places and so on and so forth.
Brilliant.
Okay. And
Thank
again, there'll be links to that on the www.talkingabout.info website. Thank you again for taking your
Thank you.
Thank
That
you.
was fun.
Talking about. That's what